All right, everyone, can people, folks take their seats, please? And
First row there.
Good afternoon, everyone. That was a little bit too quiet for my liking. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is absolutely incredible to be standing up here and seeing the amazing smiling faces that are present. My name is Sebastian Halls, and I'm the president of Community Alliance for Better Government. Thank you all for being here, and welcome to Homing In on Housing and Evanston-Skokie Housing. First, we must acknowledge the land that we stand on. Before colonization and settlement by people of European descent, the place we know as Evanston was home to the Potawatomi, the Ottawa, and the Ojibwe tribes, also known as the Council of the Three Fathers. It served as an important crossroads and a meeting place for several other indigenous tribal nations, including the Ho-Chunk, Illinois, Anoka, Kickapoo, Miami, Menominee, Peoria, and Sac, and Fox nations. We acknowledge and honor the original people of this land, as well as the indigenous people who still call this area home and support their continued work for justice, self-determination, and sovereignty. Homing In on Housing aims to unite residents and those who wish to see Evanston and Skokie implement policies and programs to make these suburbs more inclusive and diverse. The forum will allow community members to voice their needs, ideas, and expectations for housing in the northern suburbs, as well as serve as a rallying cry for political action. Despite me being a recent college graduate, we are not here to teach a college-level course on housing today. Our mission is to humanize housing, recognizing that our friends, family, neighbors are all impacted by the housing policies in our communities. Their stories must help us shape the future and inspire true change. This forum is the culmination of months of hard work, passion, and commitment to community. The dedicated members of our planning committee have been steadfast and intentional while creating this event. Evanston and Skokie members of the planning committee, please stand. Wave your hands too. I know that there are some in the back as well. Thank you for your hard work. These are members of our two host organizations, Community Alliance for Better Government and Skokie Neighbors for Housing Justice. Community Alliance for Better Government is a local organization that is committed to equity and transparency in local government. Skokie Neighbors for Housing Justice is a grassroots group of Skokie residents who believe that the village of Skokie deserves a unified housing plan that meets the human needs and promotes community. Additionally, today would not be possible without our sponsors. The sponsors are as follows: Open Communities, Northwestern University, Family Focus, First Congregational Church of Evanston, Evanston YWCA, Urban Burb Realty, Peer Services, Impact Behavioral Health, Community Partners for Affordable Housing, Grace Lutheran Church, Interfaith Action, the Harbor, Unitarian Church of Evanston, the Minority Business Consortium, Thresholds, First Church of Evanston, Connections for the Homeless, Rebuilding Together, Orchard Village, Skokie United. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, and please give a round of applause for them. Next, I'd like to introduce a longtime Evanston resident and activist who has been critical to supporting the advancement of Black residents and affordable housing in Evanston. She'll lead us with a quick icebreaker. Please give a round of applause for Darlene Cannon.
Thank you. Darlene Cannon. I am a lifelong Evanstonian, a lifelong Second Ward resident. And the question I want to ask today is, what's something that you love about your neighborhood? I, as a Second Ward resident, I love that my neighborhood is walkable. I love that I can walk the McCormick Path, and I have access to grocery stores and to shopping malls. And I also believe that that should be something that should be accessible to everyone. So this is an opportunity for you to be able to turn to your neighbor and ask them, to ask one another, what is it that you love about your neighborhood?
Want to interrupt your thoughtful conversations with your neighbors, but we do have the rest of our housing forum that we've got to get to. So thank you so much, and I believe that you all had some great conversations just now, and you know each other a little bit. But now, and thank you, Doug. I want to give a special introduction and thank you to someone who's worked day and night to make today a reality. Her work ensuring housing rights and justice for those across Evanston, Skokie, Chicago, and the rest of the North Shore has been simply incredible. Please give a round of applause for Gail Schechter.
Thank you. This is so great to see all of you. Terrific. We got the beginnings of a movement here. So my role is to get a little bit of background. As Sebastian said, this is not a college course, but still it's good to have some context before you hear from the individuals who are really the heart of this afternoon. So to be safely and affordably housed is really foundational to all our lives. To be with our loved ones within our walls or in the area allows us to flourish. And that is true for each and every one of us here. And we make our housing choices for many reasons. And you probably learned about that just now. Public policies can steer those choices for good. For example, we've got mortgage interest deduction, baked into federal housing policy. So essentially that's a subsidy for homeowners, or for ill, as in cases of displacement. And you'll hear some of that today. So where injustice comes in is the fact that it is our zip code that predicts our future more than any other data point. I don't know how many of you knew that, but that the zip code is the one most significant determinant of our future. And this is wrong. And how did this come to be? So in moving toward the inclusive and diverse communities that we want our Evanston and Skokie to be, we must understand our history. We must understand that the housing stressors we will hear more about from our panelists didn't just happen naturally. They were socially engineered this way. And social engineering is the only way we can get out of it. 4 years ago, I heard Nicole Hannah-Jones, you might know that she is the one who originated the 1619 project. She said that the Federal Fair Housing Act is, quote, the civil rights law of the North. I thought that was a really, that made a big impression on me, meaning that the Civil Rights Act in the South that opened voting was, that was the biggest factor related to injustice in the South. But here it was housing segregation. I speak from long experience. I had been the executive director of Open Communities, which is probably represented here, for a generation until 2016. So I know all these suburbs, and I know the whole history of fair and affordable housing, and that we live even in 2024 in an interconnected metropolitan system, and we live with the effects of past intentional policies of racial and economic segregation. So we know that it takes more than just enforcing fair housing rights and building affordable housing to make our communities inclusive and diverse. It takes a culture. It takes a culture of community. So now getting into a little bit about how we got to where we are. So social engineering, how our communities are today, is essentially built on the fact that housing is a commodity that can be bought and sold. It's not a right. So we've monetized housing, and that, in a sense, is a root of a lot of the issues that we have now. The persistence of anti-Black racism, which is a consistent devaluation of people as well as properties, is also is a second factor. 3 is cultural norms. Single family homes, as a columnist recently described in the New York Times, she called it the lonesome cowboy of domestic architecture. I thought that was pretty funny. And that it atomizes people, and we didn't have to have a culture that's built that way. And in my experience, there are 4 important things that made an impression upon me about suburbs in particular. The New York Times of some years ago said, quote, "Suburbs were not designed for the poor." So that's one, that's the economics. Second, when I was in despair working in Winnetka at Open Communities, I went to Rabbi Robert Marks in Glencoe, and essentially he said, white people came here to get away from diversity. So us pushing for diversity is going against that grain. And David James, the late founder of the organization, the first Black family to buy a home in Winnetka, he described the suburbs, those suburbs, as being quote Black by day and white by night. And then the 4th important quote is from a Northbrook trustee some years ago, where he described a monstrous development of all luxury housing as, quote, a campus of exclusivity. And then the 4th piece is that the suburbs have now become, quote, the new Ellis Island. In other words, immigrants are coming right into suburbs, not necessarily into cities anymore. So segregation was not a product of housing choice, but by deliberate policies. Until 1900 in this country, we had relatively integrated living. The racial segregated patterns that we have were set between 1900 and 1940, and that's what we see today. In the northern suburbs, the appearance of the highways, allowing people to live far from jobs and from each other, industrialization with Black migration and immigrants, restrictive covenants that said, who you could sell your house to, were also factors. Just an interesting point. In 1940, only 1/3 of the American population lived in suburbs. Today, it's a majority of people live in suburbs. And in 1942, 84% of whites said in a poll, they said yes to the question, do you think there should be separate sections in towns and cities for Negroes to live in? It was not until 1970 that a majority of Americans said that that was not a good thing. So white suburbs, or the fact that suburbs became predominantly white, were additionally buttressed in Illinois by the development of home rule in 1970, meaning that suburbs could tax themselves and support their own school systems without having to support, for example, the Chicago public schools. It also meant that suburbs don't want as few children as possible. to live here, because when you've got more children, you've got to build more schools. And if you've got overcrowded schools, that can lower property values, and it's a downward spiral. And then the other piece that I wanted to mention that happened not all that long ago, the foreclosure crisis reversed a lot of the gains that the Black population had achieved in terms of home ownership when they lost a lot of housing. And in Skokie in particular, Skokie was the #1 community in the northern suburbs for foreclosures, even though it's smaller than Evanston. And wealth stripping has only increased with the economic crisis. And then briefly before I close, just a little bit about Evanston and Skokie. You have in your packets some fact sheets, identical data for Evanston and Skokie, and you can look through those. I'll just highlight a few things. There is a history of racial exclusion. I'm going to read from a chapter that I wrote in the book about the Chicago Freedom Movement. I wrote about the northern suburbs. And history, I'm glad to see Bennett Johnson here. Hi, Bennett. He knows all about it, having lived this. So I'm just reading from the book. Hostility against African Americans is woven into the history of the North Shore. Only a few Evanston neighborhoods had welcomed African Americans when they fled from the South to escape lynchings in the early 20th century. Surrounding neighborhoods and suburbs had restrictive covenants against African Americans as well as Jews and Catholics. Blacks were relegated to living by the, quote, stinky sanitary canal, close quotes. That was by a woman I interviewed in West Evanston. And in Skokie, the first Black family didn't purchase a home until 1961. It's that recent. And I spoke to the white man who had facilitated that move, and he and his wife were in that home the first night. And he said bricks were being thrown in the windows, and the police just sat and stood and did nothing. So actually things have changed very much in Skokie for the better. I mean, actually now non-Hispanic whites are a minority in the village of Skokie. And the other thing that our communities have in common, strong public transit and roads, but Skokie caters very much to expressway drivers. The East Expressway corridor has more jobs than downtown Dallas, with new developments all across, going up and down the highway, that are literally designed to turn their backs on the community. Think about it, when you're going on the highway, notice that any housing development, Optima, in Northbrook Center, what is it? The one built by Morningside, they all face the highway and turn their back on the community. The other piece to highlight is racial change. Evanston has lost Black population with the mortgage meltdown. Evanston lost 1,000 Black homeowners, and you'll see that in the data, the dramatic, and consequently we have a decrease of the Black population from 21% in 1980 to only about 14% now. And affordability is as much a barrier to access to housing as racism. Prices have not kept up with incomes. More than 35% of all our households, so that's 19,000 households between Evanston and Skokie, 8,000 in Skokie, 11,000 in Evanston, are paying more than 30% of their incomes in housing. And then finally, I think it's important to point out, and you have it in your fact sheet, that only 13.9% of Evanston workers live in Evanston. Can you imagine that? Only less than 14% of our workers actually live here. In Skokie, that's just 9.6% of the workforce. I'm sure anyone who's a historian would know that has to be drastically different than what it was decades ago. And we have an aging housing stock as well. So today, underdevelopment, both both Skokie and Evanston are working on in various stages of different kinds of plans. Evanston is working on a new comprehensive plan and zoning code. Skokie is working on a housing plan only thanks to our activism because they wouldn't have done it otherwise. Both are grappling with essentially a competition between people who do or would live in this housing for quality of life reasons, like us, and those who would make profits because of the strategic location of our suburbs. And I would end with the just two situations I think are emblematic of what's going on in Evanston and Skokie. And they both start with WES. In Skokie, it's Westfield, Old Orchard Mall, which has the potential, it's just been announced that the owners want to build a 400 unit community that will be all luxury. And the village is not going to press them for any kind of affordable housing, even though the workforce, it's the most heavily populated or heavily job populated area in Skokie. So if you can't have affordable housing here, where are you going to have it? And then the second WES is Wesley Avenue here in Evanston, which is emblematic of long-time affordable housing residents who've been part of the fabric of this community, who are being threatened with displacement by the city for reasons that haven't been clearly revealed at all. And but both of these have a potential. Skokie, we could have a mixed income, vibrant community. With Wesley, we could have a fabulous continuation and upgrade of this housing, with the residents being able to stay and not exploited for their land. How about value? This is all about valuing people, not just valuing land. So just closing with the fact that gated communities work both ways. What you can allow in can also form a line of demarcation for what you let out, but let's be on the side of allowing in and being inclusive. And at that, I will eagerly await hearing the next part of the forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail is somebody that I know that I have worked with for quite some time now, and it's an amazing housing advocate as well. And like many of the folks that have worked so hard to put this event together, these are people that care about the communities that they live in and want to see them improve for the better. Next, I'd like to invite any of our panelists who are going to be joining us this afternoon to start making their way up on stage, and simultaneously, I will introduce our amazing speaker. I've known her for quite some time. Again, longtime Evanston resident. There's a trend here. There's a lot of longtime folks that love this place, but she is committed to delivering journalism and the truth to Evanston's residents. The creator of Evanston Live TV and Where the People Meet, Malika Gardner, will be our moderator for it. Please, everyone, make your way up to the stage. You can take it away.
Great, thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Gail. Thank you to Community Alliance for Better Government. Thank you guys so much. You do so much. Hey, Kathy. So we'll get started in just a minute, but this is so organized. I love this. Absolutely. Absolutely. You guys want to move closer to me? Yeah, don't bite. Well, sometimes. Thank you all so much for attending this. I mean, this shows how much people care. We're all about community engagement here. It is so needed, so important. So thank you. Could have been anywhere today, and you chose to be here to get this information and to have your voice heard. So give yourself a round of applause. Thank you. Okay, so again, I'm Malika Gardner. I'm with Where the People Meet TV, and I'd like to hear who I'm sitting next to.
My name is William Carter. I am one of the tenants of the Wesley Apartments. It's being displaced.
I'm Kathy White and I live in Skokie. My name is Dorothy Gill. I live in I'm Cynthia Rios and I'm with Impact Behavioral Health Partners in Evanston.
You know, this is so interesting. Gail gave such a informative speech there. Today, are you all familiar with the 2715 Herd? The church right there? Are you all familiar with that address? Okay, well, there's some history there. And we were just there today because we're going to be recording the next Where the People Meet TV episode. So I encourage everyone to come. That's going to be May 19th, 6:30 p.m. But at that address, the owner of that land is Stephen Rogers. He's a Black man. He was a professor at Northwestern. He bought that land recently for $1 million. And this is why he bought it. It's in the 6th ward. So it's not that many of us in the 6th ward, right? He bought that land because many of you know that there was a time period in Evanston where they picked up Black people's homes and moved them over to the 5th ward near the canal. And 2715 was part of that land. And that's why he bought it, because he wanted to put it back into a Black person's hands. So he spent his own money, $1 million. Yes, that deserves an applause. That's where we're going to be shooting the next episode. And I thought it was, when I was there today, it was emotional. And he numbered the parking lot spaces, the addresses of all those Black families, their addresses on those spaces that lost their homes. And I believe Carla Sutton was one of those families. You know, many of you know Carla Sutton. Yes. So it's pretty powerful. And when I heard about the displacement that is still going on in Evanston, and then we hear Mayor Daniel Bitts talking about Envision Evanston 2045. I'm going to ask you that question at the end, but have that on your mind, okay? So we're going to get started because I want to hear these voices up here. I've had the pleasure of meeting 2 of you. William Carter has been on the show. He was actually one of the first guests on our show, Where the People Meet. And unfortunately, the circumstance was not pleasant, but yes. What I would like to hear from each one of you is where you are right now, whether it's a struggle or a success in terms of living in Evanston and Skokie.
It's a frustrating struggle. We are going to the city with needs. If we're going to lose our homes, we have to know where we're going. We have to know what's going to happen once we land there. And then after we land there, what happens next? The city has offered us a year's subsidized housing. This was our retirement plan. This is going to be where we stay forever. So if we get a year's subsidized housing with a possibility of a second year, so in year 13, in month 13 or month 25, what are we doing? We can't afford to stay where we are because the subsidies have run out. We've already given away over half of our belongings because our places that we're in now are smaller. And we won't be given a guarantee of moving back, even moving back into Evanston to homes, our community. So it is a very frustrating struggle.
I own a house that I probably shouldn't. I can't afford it as long as I'm there. Once I move out of the house, I will not be able to afford to live in Skokie. I can't afford to rent in Skokie. I'm okay in my house. Renting is beyond my budget.
Well, for me, I have to say I have a success story. I was able to, because of the CEPA program, I was able to afford to buy a house that the high school built, that the children built at the high school. And so I've lived here in Evanston in my parents' home, but my parents' side passed away, and so the taxes were getting very, very high. And I have to say, God was with me, that I was at the right place at the right time, and I was able to become a first home buyer. Didn't know if I would ever be able to do that. I was living in my parents' house, but their house started to just bad things happening there. And I was able to get through that CEPA program. Like I said, I was at the right place at the right time. So I have to say, I have a success story living here in Evanston. And my family, we grew up, my kids grew up in the fifth ward here. And I'm back in the fifth ward now. So I have to say, I have success and I'm very thankful.
Hello, everyone. I also have a success story. It's not quite in the format I thought it would be, but if you would just allow me a couple minutes, and I can just give you just a little story, if you will, of how I became into my blessing with behavioral impact partners and the struggle of being homeless for me. I'll speak quickly and just so that you just have a little idea. So as I said, my name is Cynthia, and my children and my granddaughter, we've been part of the impact community for a little over 2 years. I've gone through many, many obstacles. I've had a lot of tragedies since my childhood. I want to say since the age of 4, just with physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, and my life, was a lot of struggles. I've had 6 kids. I have lost a couple kids due to tragedy. I've lost a husband due to tragedy. I moved into Evanston through a domestic violence shelter in 2003, and I had decided that I wanted to make Evanston a home for myself and my children. I loved the community, I loved the people, and I just felt really safe in Evanston. I did have my struggles throughout the past 20 years. I've been homeless several times through the past 20 years. However, I was connected through an employment specialist at Impact Behavior due to my depression and anxiety, behavioral health issues that I never really had a chance to take care of because of being a single parent taking care of my children. Through the connection with the employment specialist, her name was Natalie. She connected me with other resources in the Impact Behavioral Partners program that they have, and they were able to help me as far as gaining housing for my children. I have a daughter who is young and she was pregnant, so I have a 1-year-old granddaughter, and I still have 3 other younger children at home. And Impact has really shown us what community and what getting a blessing and a miracle is. They have not only provided a home for me and my children, and I mean a house. Been really good because, I never thought I would see myself, in a home for my children. And the hope that they have brought me, I have someone that I can talk to on a weekly basis or even more if I need to help support me. And every time I speak to another person in the Impact family, I always wind up talking your ear off, and they listen to me and they genuinely care. I never knew what it was like to have washer and a dryer at home with so many kids. And the fact that I know that if my granddaughter spills something on herself, or my kids need their clothes washed for school the next day, there's a washer, there's a dryer, there's a backyard for my kids to play in. And my journey just didn't end there. I'm continually going through the healing process of learning what it's like to have a support system, especially in the community of Evanston, especially with Impact. And I've recently been connected to resources outside of Impact, but through an Impact clinic, clinician, medical clinician, and she has connected me with resources to go back to school. So I'm really happy that I'll be able to go to school, and you're never too old to go to school. So I'm gonna go to school, and I'm proud to have my little backpack and to go sit in the chair with all those younger adults. And I'm gonna go for something that's a passion of mine, which is helping other people. And my goal is to become a licensed nurse practitioner. And Impact is there for me. Thank you.
Well, that's a beautiful story. I'm so happy for you. So happy for you. Well, some of you have some somewhat happy stories up here. And I must say the Skokie situation, I always thought Skokie would be my plan B. So apparently that's not going to be a plan B either. I need to find another one. We'll start with you, William, with the Wesley property. Are you all familiar with what's happening with the Wesley property? Okay, you know what? I'm going to let you explain it. Pretty much, they are displacing all of the tenants there with not much notice, saying that it's not safe for them to live there. I did ask Alderperson Bobby Burns for some documentation to show that these people cannot return back to their home. Many of them have lived there for many generations. They helped to clean up that entire block, so they poured their heart, their blood, their soul. Their families have been there on that block, and to suddenly be told, that you have to leave and you don't know where you're going to be in the next year or two. And when you get up in age, I mean, it's scary. It's very scary. So the documentation that he did give me said that, well, the stairs and the platforms, the balconies need to be replaced. And I said, well, that's a easy fix. So why do they have to leave permanently? Like, I don't understand. We can't seem to get an answer. Can't seem to get an answer on that. So yeah, so you can let everyone know like where that process is right now, because I think it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes to 2045. Envision it.
I'd like to go a little further back than that. We wrote a letter to the city of Evanston as a group to tenants, and it says, we the tenants of the Dead End Wesley Apartments are devastated that our little community is being torn apart. We have been informed by the city of Evanston that our homes are now unsafe. Despite our many Freedom of Information Act requests, we have yet to be presented with any official documentation verifying that the buildings are unsafe. All we want is a commitment to our future in Evanston. To ensure this future as at the very least possible, we have asked that some of the following needs be met. The right to return to our home in the city of Evanston. 2 years subsidized rent at our current rental rate if we have to be put someplace else. Because we've been displaced, because we are being torn from our homes and our community, we feel that we deserve some kind of reparation. So we've asked for a year's rent paid. We did not think that was asking too much. We also asked, well, also to mental stress and things of that nature. So we asked for that year's rent to be paid for us. This gives us time to breathe, relax, regroup, recoup. So that would give us 3 years to find out what we have to do to get back into our homes and into our city and into our community. The city said no. Emphatically, no. We just wanted some assurances that we would be taken care of. On September 9th in 2022, a certificate of dissolution of revocation, which in effect left the tenants unprotected. What that did was dissolve Evanston Housing Coalition's responsibility to that property. That means it was no longer protected. On February 13th, a little over a year later, the tenants were issued a letter at a meeting organized by the City of Evanston, Home Opportunity Development, which is the management company, with Alderman Bobby Burns and city staff, stating that the building has been deemed dangerous and unsafe, also stating that the city is requiring all tenants to vacate the buildings. This without one document from the courts of Cook County. On the 9th day of September, the tenants of Wellesley were left without protection when they filed that form. Many demands were made that we did not understand when HODC took over. They totally told us that we have no rights. We asked them questions, they say, you do what we tell you to do, or you can move. Now, if you tell a 14-year-old that nowadays, they're gonna throw a fit. You tell a 67, 57, 87-year-old adult that, you got some very angry elderly people on your hands. We would go to HODC saying, we need to get this fixed. We need to get that taken care of. What's going to happen about this? And we were treated with such disrespect. HODC was so rude that it worked out exactly like we had to stop going to the office because we were getting nothing. So when February 13th rolls around, they're saying we have to get out. We're saying, why? We said, well, the stairs are messed up. And we said, but the city broke the stairs. Why do we have to leave? The city broke the building. Why do we have to leave? Crickets, no answers. We try to talk to our alderman, and he is holding meetings with HODC and Sarah Flax. We have no idea what's going on in those meetings other than they're making arrangements to move us out of the city of Evanston. So we're saying, okay, I'm 67 years old. I didn't always live in Evanston, but I've been coming to Evanston almost monthly since I was crawling, then toddling, then walking, then running. I've been in Evanston all of my life. The people who live there's some people who live in my building have not lived more than 4 miles from where they're living right now in that little place. So we've got 30, 40, 50, 60 years of memories and belongings and trinkets and things that they've collected over all this time. And now they're being told, well, don't know what to tell you, but you're going to have to move. We can't put you back in a 2-bedroom apartment because that's not how things work. You're going to have to go to a studio or a 1-bedroom apartment. So we say, what do we do with our belongings? We have collected these things over the years. Every piece of my apartment means something to me. What do I do with the things that do not fit in my new, smaller space? Evanston states, that's not something for us to worry about. Our concern is your safety. We the tenants say, if you were concerned for our safety, you would not have broke our building. When we mention that you broke the building, we get crickets. They literally turn their heads and will not answer the questions about that. Why did you put those pieces on the building that actually separated the metal from the brick? We get no answers, so we want documentation. What documentation did you have that those supports need to be put on the buildings? We get no answers, and we can't find any documentation. What documentation do you have that the building is unsafe, that we have to move out? There is no documentation. There have been 5 different organizations who have put out FOIAs, freedom of that information, to get information on why these buildings are being deemed unsafe. There is no documentation. Just the word of the city, HODC, and our Alderman Bobby Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. I'm so sorry you all are going through that. We sit here and we wonder like, what do we do? What do we do? What can we do to help this situation? Almost feels like boxing a mountain. Once the vision is in place, you know, we tend to be the last ones to wake up and realize, hey, it's already in motion. The train has left the station, right? And it's like, what do we do? What do we do?
There are some small flyers that's been circulated through to some of you. Basically, it says a community in peril. A small community of elders, families, veterans are being told to leave. We need your help to work together to save our homes. Justice for Evanston tenants. And there is a QR code on this that you can scan that would take you to a website that would give you options.
Yeah, I'd love to see people get proactive. I mean, we have to fight and come together for this. Okay, and as far as Skokie, like, when did Skokie become the place that people can't afford to rent? Was that everyone's plan B? Like, if it got too expensive in Evanston, you would move to Skokie? Like, how many people thought that? Yeah. Evanston was your retirement. It's actually mine too, but I'm getting a little nervous. But yeah, Skokie was the plan B. So how did this come to happen? Explain what happened with Skokie. Like, what is going on and what are you all doing about it?
Well, some of what's going on in Skokie is the approval of very large exclusive communities, buildings that did Emmy figure out that, did she look up the price for the 2-bedroom and discover 6,000 rent? It was enough that it could really push up all the rest of the rents there. But I'm also in a place where I finally qualified for a pension 5 years ago, and the rest of my income is undependable. So I have to budget based on the pension, and it might actually get up to 28,000 next year, but what's that going to buy in an apartment? What does that leave me for eating? That's tight. Interestingly, I have now 3 other friends in identical situations, essentially, all older than I am. And I've come to the conclusion that I am not unique. I am not an anomaly. There's a group of people, single people, who have limited income for one reason or another, who can afford to be in the house and cannot afford not to be in the house.
So what actions are you all taking, Skokie residents taking? Because I'm more than positive you are not the only one. So, I mean, oftentimes in Evanston, we say it's like a Black exodus of Black Evanston, like really trying to get us out of here. But clearly it's for Skokie, is everyone if you can't afford it, then I have one local media person here in Evanston told me, you know, if Black people can't afford to live here, then you need to move to Flint, Michigan. Yeah, and people read his stuff all the time. Yes. So I would love to hear what steps are you all taking? Because oftentimes people don't know who to talk to. Like, who have you gone to in terms of the council, the mayor? What are you getting back?
Is there anybody we haven't gone to? We met individually with every single board member and with the mayor. I think we had 2 or 3 every once in a while, but for the most part, it was one-on-one. And we've written proposal after proposal stating what needs to be happening. And we have an affordable housing proposal in front of us that doesn't even say affordable anymore. It's gotten farther and farther away from what we originally suggested. So we did pass an electoral reform, and thinking of just voting the people out.
The power of the vote. Yes, the power of the vote. Love it, love it, love it. And I mean, your story with SEPA, correct? SEPA's back there. SEPA was part of the Evanston reparations program, which is controversial. Some of us agree with that, some of us don't. But you know, we appreciate organizations that support, you know, just wanted to play a part in it. So that spoke volumes. But you know, my definition of reparations from some people's definition of reparations is like worlds apart. But to me, it looks like everyone up here deserves reparations for what's happening. Absolutely. So in terms of SEPA, I've just started learning about SEPA because of Evanston reparations. So if you can tell us more about how that organization has helped you and what is your advice to others?
Well, for me, from the beginning, it was a wonderful program. They not only, they helped you with credit recovery, how to save money, how to, business aspects. And one thing I have to say about SEPA, they don't just let you, once you get in the house, I just recently went, a few weeks ago to a workshop up in Libertyville to help to maintain. I'm a woman. I'm divorced, and I, you know, a lot of things I did not know coming from an older house. So there were things that they run workshops twice a year to help with gardening, different things of that nature. And they don't just leave you high and dry, and that's what I like. That if there's questions, we can call, and they emphasize that to let us know, you know, like if maybe problems with budgeting. Those are sometimes you run into those things and you don't know, you know, and you kind of feel dumb. Oh, well, I should know this, but they're there for us. And I have to say, my hat's off to see, but everyone that I've dealt with has been very, very nice to me, and like I said, we get letters to letting us workshops and things of those nature that really are a plus. I feel bad for, it makes me feel bad that I feel like I'm a success story here, but it's something that I feel like, you know what, God's been there for me. I have to give it to him because all of these things came around because of my faith. So I'm very, very pleased with that. So
How proactive were you in finding SEPA? Did someone recommend SEPA to you? I mean, because there's so many people, especially here in Evanston. Affordable housing, just surviving, maintaining is, you know, I don't know if there's enough programs or if they can take everyone. You know, so how did you come across SEPA, and what is the you were accepted, do they accept everyone?
There's a process that you go through. We did a Zoom program, and it emphasized it may not be for everybody, maybe not that at that point, that might be not, people may not be at that time willing or financially able to do it because of credit and things, but they help you. They don't just leave you there. They give you programs on how to build better credit, how to save. And there's a program that, you know, that helps with a down payment if you need that. So I have to say, and I've been telling people about it. I mean, I felt a success story, and it's been something that I've wanted to let everybody know about it. And there are different programs still opening up in other suburbs that other people are availing themselves to it. So me, it's been a wonderful program. And I have to, my hat's off to SEPA, and I really all the people, they were very, they don't make you feel like downtrodden, but they're there to help you in anything that you may have a question. Some of the things you may not even think, but they bring it up. And so it's good for me.
What do you all think we need to do in terms of government? How to approach our government, these policies? What is it that we're not doing to get to these people? You have Alderperson Bobby Burns, who, you know, he feels he's doing a great job, that he's serving his community, and he's, you know, he asked for Northwestern to really contribute to affordable housing. So he feels like he's doing, you know, a great job. But then you hear of stories where people have to seek out programs and people being displaced. In terms of our government, I know we have to vote, that's one. But in the meantime, you have people in urgent situations now. So what are some steps that you all are doing now, right now, before the elections?
Briefly, politics is part of our problem. We're not a number. We're not a red line or a black line. We're human beings, and we don't add up. We're disposable. That's got to change. So when we put somebody in office, we have to let them know, yes, we understand the city runs on funds, but those funds are supposed to support the people. The people cannot be thought of as disposable. Be transparent in where the money's going. Be transparent on why the money's going there. We pay our taxes. Monies are given to the city to help certain situations. If that money's not there to help the situation, where did it go? Be transparent. And our government, at least locally, is not transparent. So we need to get some people in there who are.
Do you think we're showing up in numbers enough? I mean, because this is a nice turnout right here. I mean, it'd be great if twice this many showed up at city council and really voice their opinion. Do you think that would work or help? No? Yes. No.
The city has limited public speaking, public comment to half an hour. And if there's certain people on the dais, they'll say, you have 1 minute to speak. You can't say much in 1 minute unless you talk so fast no one understands it. So coming out in numbers, you can show up and they can see the numbers, but if they don't hear what you have to say, then it's just a big crowd of folks.
I think education is a really good thing. But it only goes so far if you have people who don't want to be educated. I think once we get some new blood in Skokie, it will be much more effective to educate them. We are really lucky to have someone who's the expert.
I agree, education is the key, you know, it's, for me, it's, I have to, prayer is a big thing for me. That's, I just feel like man can only do so much, but my allegiance is prayer, and that helps me. That's what I have to say.
I agree with Dorothy, with the prayer. Also, you know, they have a lot of, candle visuals for people who passed away or certain violence that occurs in the community. And, I just know that in the Bible it says that there is nothing too big or too small, and God's always listening. So maybe one day we can all rally as a community and have a candle visual for the cause of homelessness. You know, show our faith that together as a community, we could pray, we can bring awareness, we can have a march maybe. We march for all sorts of other stuff, and all of us are important. You know, one thing that's really important is not only with us as adults, but children. My children were really affected by homelessness, very difficult with the paid wages out there for different positions and childcare. And, you know, some of us are single parent, not by choice. And, you know, that's frowned upon a lot. And it's nice to be embraced by a community who understands that, who's backs us up, because children need that. They're the future, and they realize and they see who speaks up, who is there. And my children right now, they don't have to move every year. Every single year we were moving, and it was because the rent went up or something happened with the job. And, you know, it's very important. And so Impact, one thing that they do is they, you know, make sure the kids know that they're stable. My kids are happier, they're flourishing. And, you know, we do pray every night towards, we pray. And you know what? One of the things they thank God for is for Impact. So maybe we can come up with something, spreading the word with flyers, with posters, with, you know, some sort of communication that all of us as organizations can come together and set a date. That it's a nice day outside, of course. You know, we can make posters, and we can, you know, just like we rally for every other thing, we can rally for our community and for our seniors and for our young adults and for our children, and just come together. Because homelessness, people think that it just means you're lazy or you don't want to work, or you, and you know, there's all sorts of different reasons why people are homeless. So we just need to bring that to light. Maybe as a community, Evanston-Skokie, imagine how many people, if we came together on a nice sunny afternoon, how much the word would spread. So that could touch someone, it can touch anyone's heart, and it will show that we stand together in all different diversities and different paths of life. So I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, well, until, I like that. I like that idea. I like that idea. Whether it would reach our council members, I don't know. But I love that idea of community and coming together, just showing that we care about each other. And yes, homelessness is not just what most people think it is, you know, people with mental illness or drug problem. I mean, oftentimes it's people who've just fallen on their luck. They've been thrown out, displaced, and don't have the resources to find another place to live. It happens all the time, all the time. And I don't think people realize how easy it can happen to them or a loved one, someone in their family, how easy it can happen. Well, so with Evanston, I know part of the vision is, you know, they're building the stadium. They want to bring in more money into the city. They want to bring more Chicagoans into Evanston. They want to build more, you know, luxury apartments like they're doing in Skokie. So there's a vision, there's a plan in place. And I don't know what that means for everyone that's been here and has been pouring into this community. Are we part of that picture? Are we part of this vision? I mean, they put people on the council for a reason because they have that vision as well. To just make it this very high-end suburb of the North Shore. And I'm not quite sure what we do about it. Anyone out there have a thought, have a thought to that? What we could do?
I do. And I encourage others to participate in the Visioning 2045 process. I've done it both online on the survey form that's available. Also, testified at an open hearing with this vision. Of all the employers in the city of Evanston, where I live, think about all of the wages that are paid for all the employees from the top to the bottom. Think of all of those different incomes that are paid to the employees that work in Evanston. The vision is this, and add up all of those for all the employers throughout the city and all the wages paid to everybody who works in the city. And just plot all that in a big spreadsheet or a graph or a picture or however you want to do it. And then say, we want that picture compared over here to a model of all the housing stock in Evanston in terms of its affordability. So that anybody who works in Evanston and would like to have their family live in the community where they work, they would be able to find a place that they could afford to live. Yeah. How about that? Have their kids walk over to the lake, enjoy the parks, and eat in a restaurant downtown, go to the theaters, whatever they like to do to enjoy this wonderful city. They could afford to because the housing stock set up as a goal because of our new reformed zoning laws, our new reformed laws for planned development, and every other way that affects how housing is done in the city of Evanston, and how about Skokie too. It would be modeled to be sure that anybody who works in that municipality could find a fine place for their family to live. Now that's a vision I think we could get over.
I love that vision. I love that vision. We'll take one more and then we'll wrap it up.
During which we come to the problems we put out in the main meeting. You think people are going on? It's kind of like they're one. We consider strong. This person is a perfect example. All the one things out there that show total unfairness, total corruption. And so I think that's been the other part. I think someone up there is voting. That's key. We have to elect people who are responsive to us. So Robert Burns and his mother and his friends of mine, and they have to go. They're not doing the right thing. So somebody can be lined up to get rid of Mr. Burns. That's all in the council everyone.
Thank you, Bennett. Thank you. Thank you. We're gonna wrap up because they need to get going up here. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories. I've actually learned some things. I learned more about SEPA today, impact today. And we're gonna keep fighting for Wesley. We gotta get it out there. We gotta get the story out there. Definitely. People need to know that. They need to know that. And Skokie, I am disappointed in Skokie. I'm really disappointed in Skokie. Goodness gracious. All right, but thank you all so much. Thank you. And thank you all. Yes.
Can you get out that our emails?
We have more of the event, don't
Yeah, this isn't it. This isn't the end. This is just our end. Yes, thank you. Thank you all for sharing.
Yes, thank you again to our amazing panelists and our amazing moderator, Malika Gardner. Now I will hand this off to our esteemed practitioner of our breakout session. It's gonna be Darlene Cannon, and she's gonna walk us through. We know that we all should have the packets of information that have questions, et cetera, on it. So we're gonna hit that portion of the event.
So we should all have our packets. So we'll have about 10 minutes for this part, and we have 3 questions. The first question is, what is our vision for what we want to see? And the second one is, what is the path to getting from where we are to what that vision, and how would you envision participating in that? So, I mean, we can, have a group together where you're sitting, or you can go to a table. We have about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back together and discuss.
We have places for people to go.
Oh, okay,
Breakout groups, so find a spot.
okay,
There, back there, and back there.
okay.
So ask people to find a breakout.
Yeah, so find a breakout group. We have 10 minutes.
8 people in each group about.
8, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So where you see these, to move your chairs. You can move the chairs. And you can put it. You should all. Yeah. Oh, no. Oh. Stop. Good. Good, you got it.
Yeah, I guess.
If anybody
Yeah,
needs
that's
another
right.
room. Whoops. Oh, no.
Now I'm hearing about the deeper programs. Because I've been asking about that already. Well, I know that. I know because the young lady, I was like, and I'm like, I've been asking. I've been back on my 4 years. Nobody wants to tell you this yet. Like, if you don't know, somebody. So now I know. Yeah, I just, I didn't know where, I put in. Well, even kind of college, even with that, I'm trying to this the one right, this right here. Yeah. And she went in there, and told her about, no, that was a deep one. Why? And then it wasn't given it back. I'm like, yeah.
Create all these committees and stuff, and we like.
So that's what I'm saying. We have to think about it, yeah, but I think it's kind of. Okay. Well, contact, the housing. And this is what I'm saying. But I'm saying, yeah. How do you get to hope? Same thing. So they will. Oh, yeah, you could answer. Tell her to come here. Yeah, we'll ask her.
But if you want, they eliminate all five.
affordable housing units, but for permanent housing. And beyond. Move the park, move the park, go the other way. No, we have to be taken 5 minutes. Then put it into the apartment. Back off.
Okay, all right, here we are. Okay, thank you for taking the time to do this. We're gonna be wrapping up the breakout sessions. So what we're gonna do, if somebody could take post-it, the post-it from each of the groups, if there can be one person that takes the post-it from each of the groups and puts it up on that wall over there, to your right, stage left, the wall facing the windows. And what we're gonna do is we have some dots over here by the window, and actually, if we could have somebody have the dots, can somebody grab the dots that are on the windowsill there and then stand by the post-its and make them available? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pretend to do some democracy here, and it's a little chaotic, but it'll be fun, because what it'll do is it'll enable you to actually see what other ideas people have. And then take a dot, and this is Cook County, so you're welcome to vote as often as you like, and put a dot by the ideas that you are most favorable for. Okay, does everybody got an idea of what's going on? Are we clear? Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're gonna take 5 minutes to do this. Remember, you have as many opportunities to vote as you want, right? There's no restriction here, and you can be from any country, you can be any citizen status. We don't care. We just want you to take a look at what people have written, think about it, and pick the ones you like. And then I'm gonna go over there, right? And if you really like an idea and you want me to pick it as the winning idea, there will be a fee for that. Okay. Anyway, and then we'll in about 5 minutes, we'll get back together and we'll see what the most popular ideas was. Thank you. Yeah. So after we're done voting, and hopefully everybody's got voted more than once. It's the spirit of this, vote often. If you can go back to your seats and then I'll take a look at this and do a very quick visual summary. This is not gonna be scientific, but it will be kind of a ballpark of what were some of the more salient ideas that are seen.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Take a look at this, there's a couple of key ideas about the one that we
Really important process to beat up on elected officials for vote and really engage in conversation of ideas. So some of the key ideas in terms of vision, looks like there's a strong interest in having more robust inclusionary zoning. Affordability rental programs. Also, a number of when people group mentioned zoning changes, really having changing the zoning to allow different housing types and more diverse housing opportunities. How to do this? There's a recurring theme of voting out the existing. Getting out to vote and electing people who are going to be responsive to the housing concerns, and a lot about education and getting and having people be more receptive to and less fearful of people who have different income situations and different housing requirements. So those are probably the 3 or 4 things most
most common, selections out there. Any other comments about this? There's some good ideas up here. If you haven't had a chance to peruse them, please do so. And, thank you very much. And, good work, the, small groups. Thank you.
Okay, so we have two final things, up here, okay, except you guys be handing these out. So our final activity for you to do is to fill out a bright orange yes card. And the reason for this is because this doesn't obviously stop here. We want everybody to be involved. And so we want to know, how can you be involved? What are you willing to do? And I want to just, while I have the mic, before Sebastian comes to close this out, finish with a little story that there was an empty chair today because I was supposed to get a vote or a renter from Evanston, and I had somebody that I would really like to speak, but we just weren't able to make a video. The reason we would need a video is because she doesn't live here anymore. So if you can imagine in that empty chair, a generational Evanston family. The family has been here for over 60 years. And they lost their housing. They just weren't able to keep up with the rent, got evicted, had an opportunity for a voucher in Boston. And so the family now lives on the East Coast and they've left Evanston. So you have to just picture that as a wonderful human being, and hopefully maybe they'll make it back sometime and port the voucher back here. But it was really unfortunate that they had to do that. So thank you for filling out the yes card. Does everybody have one? Does anyone need one? Raise your hand if you need a yes card. If you need a writing utensil, we do have pens. And thank you for being here. And here's Sebastian, the president of CABG, to close us out.
And thank you everyone for attending today. This was absolutely fantastic. And I really hope that each and every one of you is leaving here today learning something new. Not maybe just about yourself, but about your neighbors and your neighborhood and your communities as a whole, right? I do want to, again, say quickly thank you to all of our sponsors, the volunteers that have worked so hard for this event, our moderator, our panelists, and yourselves for coming to this place and attending this event. Because again, this is incredibly important work, and we are all so incredibly passionate. So just give yourselves a round of applause for the hard work that you all do and the hard work that you will continue to do going forward. So again, thank you everyone for coming. I would highly recommend that there are a lot of our sponsors or fantastic groups of folks that are out here in the back. They've got resource table, and they are able to assist and provide guidance, knowledge on a litany of issues. So if there's something that you are, you have questions about, whether or not it's your current rental situation, or you just want to get in touch with an organization that you've heard a little bit about do and you want to get involved and want to volunteer, those folks are out there and they're willing to have those, ready to have those conversations. So again, make sure you stop by there on the way out. We do have some more food, so make sure you take some of that because I do not want to be taking it home myself. And again, thank you all for coming.
Well, it's just going to look at the organizing donation drive. Library, kind of get feedback from. You guys need time? Visibility, behavior.
I can.
So it's not by population and not right. So like housing, that's fair, right?